So spring begins in February in the land of Israel. This is the 3-month latter rain season, which begins in February, and Abib is equal to February. And we teach that a lot. And there's a lot of information about this, but we're going to get into a little bit of the information, some more information, to confirm this understanding. Again, don't look in if you're in, especially if you're in North America, because I have a couple of people who debate with me. But February is winter; it's cold. The snow's still on the ground and everything. Snow is rain, snow is waters and stuff like that. That's too. Right. Water. And people only look at weather, but if you really have an eye to see, you'll see that February starts warming up. The lights start getting longer. You can even feel the heat turning up a little bit. You have to be, keen to these acute changes, even though they're happening on a macro big scale. Remember, we talked about the latter rains in the first month. So let's take a look here. Some more information about this first month and the rains.
1 Chronicles chapter 12, verse 15. These are they that went over Jordan in the first month, when it had overflown all his banks. And they put to flight all them of the valleys, both toward the east and toward the west.
That's right. So it says, Jordan in the first month, what? It overflowed all his banks. Well, why would it overflow, family?
Because it's raining.
Latter rain in the first month, right there, right?
That's right.
Right. So this is a good understanding. If you had to have March and April as beginning the month, the early rain, the latter rain season, that way, then again, it has to be 3 months long. So you can't have March, April, and May being a part of that latter rain season. It just can't work. It's summer.
No, it can't work. May is not a part of. May is a part of summer, not That's the right. rains.
And if you want to now go so far, some people will do it even in April and start in April, the beginning of April, May, and June. You're gone way out of whack. You understand? So let's continue, and we'll look at that comment in a bit. Let's continue with this slide here, brother. Go ahead.
Joshua chapter 3, verse 15. And as they that bear the ark were come unto Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped in the brim of the water, for Jordan overfloweth all his banks all the time of harvest.
All right, so we see Jordan overflows all his banks. When?
All the time of harvest.
So obviously be wise for us to try to figure out, when is this time of harvest that it overflows its banks? When does that occur? Yatiba says, I'd like to know the month when you start the feast. All right, well, yes, I guess in my walk, I started in March. I like what I'm learning, not fully understand, but all right, cool. Yeah, we go by Leviticus 23 greatly. Leviticus 23 is our favorite chapter when it comes to the festivals, and we speak about that a lot, and we'll cover a little bit more about that next Sabbath too, I can tell you that. However, though, February is the beginning of the year, and is Abib, then you would having Passover, the Feast of Passover and Unleavened Bread in February, that way. And it all depends. We would have to show you the day, depending on what year it is. But yes, so we always keep the Passover in February all the time. If you do it in March, what happens in March is actually the Passover of the second month. So again, people begin the year in March, but the year doesn't begin in March. That's the spring equinox, which is not the beginning of spring. It's the middle of spring. So
that's right.
Let's continue on with this understanding here.
Joshua chapter 4, verse 18. And it came to pass, when the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of Jah were come up out of the midst of Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up unto the dry land, that the waters of Jordan returned unto their place, and flowed over all his banks, as they did before. And the people came up out of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal in the east border of Jericho. I think you're muted, Sean.
What we got here again is these latter rains. You see the first month is here. You see the first month is here, the 10th day of the first month at the bottom. You have, for Jordan overflows his banks all the time of harvest. This is still today. This still occurs today. You understand?
That's right.
Again, it says, for Jordan overflows all his banks all the time of harvest. This harvest begins right here. This is the waving of the sheaf, when the children of Israel now can eat of the cuttings of the land, There's not supposed to be any bread and leaven until this festival is over. This is the festival of Passover. So the 22nd of Abib, which is equivalent to February, this is all the time of harvest, right? And we're going to show you that this and this is what you call the time of the harvest, the spring grains harvest. So we know that if this was referring to the summer harvest, we know it doesn't even rain then, right? So it wouldn't make sense for it to say it overflows its banks all the times of the summer harvest when there's no rain for it to overflow. So we know that this harvest season is referring to the spring grain harvest, and it starts in February for 3 months. It's the latter rains. Remember again, these verses are all focusing on the first month, which we say is February.
That's right.
The first month is February, right?
That's right. So the beginning of those rains can't be March. It has to be February, which is why we keep the feast of Passover in February and not March.
Right. Not March. Here's an understanding of, again, with the harvest and this time period. Go ahead.
Exodus 23, verse 16. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. Exodus 34, verse 22. And thou shalt observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. Jeremiah 5, verse 24. Neither say in thine heart, let us now fear Jah our Elohim, that giveth rain, both the former and the latter, in his season. He reserveth unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest.
All right, we see here that dealing with this situation here, we have the Feast of Harvest, which is the first fruits of thy labors, which is the Feast of Pentecost, right? We have Ingathering, which is later in autumn. We have the Feast of Weeks of the first fruits of wheat harvest, which again occurs in the springtime. And then we have here that gives the rain both the former, which is what we're in now, and the latter rain in his season. He reserveth unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest. So remember that, as it says here in Joshua 3:15, brother.
For Jordan overfloweth all his banks all the time of harvest.
So we have, he overflows all his banks all the time of harvest. We read that. We have the appointed weeks of the harvest. We have the Feast of Harvest, right? The first fruits of wheat harvest. All of this occurs in the spring, right? And so when we look at this understanding here with our months and understanding, in the yellow is the Feast of Passover, always beginning at the end of the 14th. The Passover will always start on the first day of the week forever and evermore and last for a week, 7 days. And the waving of the sheaf is the morrow after the Sabbath, when you start reading Leviticus chapter 23. And again, Saint and Sister Yativa, Leviticus 23 spells out the calendar very, very clearly. And so when we do get a chance to read that hopefully next Sabbath, it should be coming up. You're going to have a wonderful understanding, because it's going to complement what we're learning today. So we have here, if you know how to count to the weeks of harvest, is the same 7 Sabbaths that you have to count to the Feast of Weeks. So from the sheaf, we count these 7 Sabbaths. So we have Sabbath 1, we have Sabbath 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we have the Feast of Pentecost. All of this time is the appointed weeks of the harvest, are the latter rains. This is the 7 Sabbaths counting to Pentecost are the first fruits. So everything that we just read, the harvest overflowing all his banks and all of that, that's all those verses go with this season again perfectly. You understand?
That's right.
You want to add anything here, brother?
Yeah, and those weeks of harvest is the harvest referring to the barley harvest.
That's right.
So the feast of weeks after the 7th day of unleavened bread, when you have the waving of the sheaf, that marks the beginning of the barley harvest. And after the barley harvest, then we get into the wheat harvest. Yes,
that's right. That's right. And we'll cover all of the harvests too in future lessons. Good point out though, Brother Javid. So again, this is for this year. Again, it's looking at the months, and we've covered this last week, but 12 months in the year. February we teach is the beginning, not March or April. It's the This is the latter rain season, the time of harvest. This is how it works. May is the beginning of summer for 6 months. Then we have Tibet is the beginning of the early rains again, November. What we're in now, again, this all equals 364 days for the common year, and it's perfect. Now, just a couple of more references. Want to read here? You can go ahead and read it, brother.
Sure. In the traditional Chinese calendar, the spring season consists of the days between Lishun, which is February 3rd to 5th, taking Shunfen, March 20th to the 22nd, at its midpoint, then extending at Lycia, May 5th to 7th.
All right. So what I want to show here is I'm showing you from a Chinese calendar. Yes, we're not saying our calendar is almanac. Our almanac, the scripture almanac, is the Chinese calendar. But the Chinese calendar and many other calendars out there, they know when the true beginning of the year is. Have you ever noticed? Ask yourself, if you must live in a place where some Chinese people are, and they always keep their Chinese New Year is always in February. And I think one time it might have been like the last 2 or 3 days of January. But for the most part, throughout their animal cycle of years, 19 cycles of animal years, they start at February. And I've learned a lot about the Chinese calendar. So when we're talking about these time frames here, this year, 20 to 22nd is the midpoint, and that deals with the spring equinox. So even they know that that's when the equinoxes are the midpoint. And then it says that when it ends from the 5th to 7th of May, that's spring being over. And obviously, as we've been showing you a lot, May starts is the beginning of the summer season. Continue, brother.
Similarly, according to the Celtic tradition, which is based solely on daylight and the strength of the noon sun, spring begins in early February, near Imbolc or Candlemas, and continues until early May, which is known as Beltane.
That's right. These are other festivals that are a part of the beginning of the year. They're heathenistic festivals or pagan festivals, but they're festivals that are based upon the true beginnings and endings of the seasons.
That's right. In the northern hemisphere, the astronomical vernal equinox, varying between March 19th to the 21st, can be taken to mark the false first day of spring, with the summer solstice, which is around June 21st, marked as false first day of summer.
The false first day of summer, that's right.
By solar reckoning, spring is held to begin February 1st until the first day of summer on May Day, with the summer solstice being marked as midsummer instead of the beginning of summer, as with astronomical reckoning.
Now, you've been hearing this theme a lot when we're teaching, but again, this information is known out there in the world. And when it talks about the solar reckoning, that's the solar scriptural reckoning. We know that the sun has a big play, major play in the seasons that way. Just like how it has a major play in the 24-hour day. It's the big standard out there, right? That way. This is, kind of something I wasn't going to be bringing up, but true, I saw that, there's something here that I wanted to read. Kind of big here for me. In other traditions, the equinox is taken as mid-spring. This is a solar reckoning. Let me see something. In the traditional Chinese calendar, the spring season consists of the end of winter from February 4th and the beginning of spring to May 5th, roughly taking the equinox as its midpoint. Similarly, according to the Celtic tradition, which is based solely on daylight and strength. Okay, so we kind of just almost read that. Other calendar-based reckoning. In Ireland, spring, let me make this bigger. In Ireland, spring traditionally starts in February 1st, St. Brigid's Day, although Irish meteorologists consider the whole of February to be a part of winter, right? So there's differences of understanding. And then right here, many flowering plants bloom at this time of year in long succession, sometimes beginning when snow is still on the ground and continuing into the early summer. In normal snowless areas, spring may begin as early as February in the northern hemisphere. So yeah. So again, this is one of the points this was showing out here again. People know the references are out there regarding this understanding. Now this chart here, not chart. This is a website. This is a screenshot from a website, and I just, if you can read the first sentence, Brother Javid.
Israel in the spring. Yeah, Israel in the spring heralds the start of the most incredible display of wildflowers. In the Galilee and Golan Heights, glorious flowers burst into bloom and cover the hills and fields with color beginning during January and lasting until late spring.
All right, so that's all we need to get there. In terms of, I mean, we could read that other part, but it doesn't matter. But notice it says what it's beginning during January. You know, January's before February, but a lot of people think spring is only March and April. But in the land of Israel, it's not like that. Spring begins in February. You understand?
That's right.
And read the next little thing down there.
As February arrives and spring temperatures become apparent, all different kinds of flowers can be seen, many of them unique to certain areas, particularly the magnificent sun's eye tulips, orchids, purple iris, some of which are so dark that they are referred to as black iris.
That's okay. We don't have to read anymore. It says during the months of February and March, numerous people visit to view these things. All right. Here's now another website from a website, Echo Israel Hava Adam Masa. And remember, the reason why we're using these websites and then we know that the Gentiles are in Israel is because they live there, right? I know for a fact that if I went to Israel today, I'll be able to see the seasons perfectly because we already know Jah's Almanac.
That's
so
right.
Read the blue up there, brother.
How's the weather in Israel in February? February brings slightly warmer temperatures than January, the coldest month of the year. The mild winter continues with the average daily temperature this month being 9 degrees Celsius. The average daily high in February is approximately 13 degrees Celsius in the middle of the day, while the lows at night drop down to 5 degrees Celsius.
And that's all the technical stuff. And I mean, I'm not trying to overwhelm you with that. You know, once you get into things, you'll know. But again, it says that the coldest month of the year is January, right? Letting us know that, again, this connection of February to spring. But look what it says here, right down below it, from this Echo Israel website, the spring semester, spring 2018 starting mid-February. But read this sentence right here, brother.
February is the beginning of spring in Israel.
Can you read that one more time, brother?
February is the beginning of spring in Israel.
I know. I'm going to ask you to read it one more time still.
February is the beginning of spring in Israel.
Continue.
There is still rainfall, but the weather starts warming up. Everything is green and blooming. This is a wonderful time on the farm.
All right. So, you know, we'll just leave it at that for a second. Look at the bottom line there.
The weather is heating up in the beginning of May.
Why? Because it's summer,
May
right?
is the beginning of summer. That's right.
All right. So, I mean, we can still go on a little bit more, but this is some, you know, these guys live down there. They know that. And I know that they know that. And they know that we know that. And that people are going to find out anyways. And so why not find out earlier than later, right?
That's
and
right.
Those who are students, that's great. Be a student. We're all students. But continue to study it. Don't let nobody come and kick this study off from underneath your legs and make you go run somewhere else, because you have to stay firm and understanding to learn these things. It takes time to study calendars. I don't expect anybody to understand after the first explanation. And this is why we have to kind of make sure things are accurate and using scriptures and charts, because I know this is a challenging topic, especially when you're coming out from Babylon. And again, you've seen some pretty good information so far that February is the beginning of the scriptural year due to the early and latter rains. That confirms it. And
that's right.
No lunar calendar can't change that or make it seem another way or anything. I mean, it's better that the people who use a so-called lunar cycle for the scriptural calendars Well, they might as well, use the Chinese, because the Chinese calendar is lunar too, and even the Chinese do the moon. They know it begins in February because they use the moon after the winter solstice, right? That way, one of the second new moon after the winter solstice. Now, I'm not telling anybody to use lunar cycles. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, see, we start to put things together and understanding that there's a lot of mix-up going on here.
And even the paragraph at the beginning of this slide, and it says February brings slightly warmer temperatures than January. This is another proof that February begins in winter, is the beginning of spring, because January is the coldest month, right? So temperatures don't start getting colder in February, even though February is cold, but temperatures are starting to rise in February. That's because sunlight starts increasing noticeably in February also.
Slightly warmer temperatures. That's right, brother.
Right? I mean, temperatures aren't decreasing, they're increasing.
That's right. That's right. Good observation. You get some facts about February. Quick time.
Aquarius is associated with the month of February, which has its derivation from February, which meaning to cleanse from the Latin. Februarius, month of purification. As we know, it is a water month.
All right. No, I don't deal with astrology. These are just certain calendrical facts. We don't deal with Aquarius and all of that. We don't follow it. But we do know that when they place these constellations, they're placing them in the correct seasons as well. Remember, it's Babylon, so they're going to have a little truth and then mix it up with paganism and worshiping the stars and all that kind of stuff. But the word February means to clean, to cleanse, right? You ever, to purify as well. It's a month of purification. It was the first month of the Roman year. It was the Roman month of purification. And this is why, Abib has 28 days. And this is why February, it also has 28 days too, because the heathens know that. Haven't you ever wondered, like, if January is the first month of their Gregorian calendar, then February is the second month. Like, why does February start with like 28 days and then 29 during a leap year? Believe it or not, February is the true beginning of the year, as you've been seeing. And they know this, and they meaning the devils out there, and they've deceived mankind for all these thousands of years. So this is why we're trying to unwrap all these layers of falsehood, and it's not easy, but they know what's going on. I mean, you even know that thing called Febreze means purified.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
Has that word February in it too, but yeah, All right, let's continue.
In ancient Rome, it was during the time when the sun was in Aquarius that people cleaned their homes, farms, and barns after the long, dark winter.
Spring cleaning,
spring cleaning. Yep.
Go ahead.
Groundhog's Day is the day when the groundhogs come out of their winter hibernation.
And over in North America, they have this big groundhog talk, and the paganism, if it sees its shadow, all of that is foolishness. The trick is that groundhogs go into their hibernation in November, just like bears do, just like many hibernating creatures in North America, let's call it, and Europe as well, that they go in during November, and some will stay longer than others, but the groundhogs come out in February. And that's why just the fact that it comes out is letting you know that it is the true spring season. When they talk about that shadow and all of that stuff there, that's just some paganism that they've added to it. But they're covering up, again, the beginning of the true scriptural year.
That's right. Imbolc. It is celebrated nowadays on February 1st or 2nd, and it is a festival of light reflecting the lengthening of days and the arrival of spring. In fact, in the Irish calendar, Imbolc is the first day of spring. Lupercalia is also a spring feast held on the 14th of February, being tied to Valentine's Day, hence the flowers.
That's right. So people out there who celebrate Valentine's Day, there's always some flowers bringing about, because it's really the first, rites of spring. So these pagans have done these things to judge true times. Yativa says, yes, calendar is based on Israel, but in other countries, things happen different. How we go about it? Well, we just follow the dates, right? And so whether it's the true, like if Jamaica doesn't have line up perfectly with with, let's say, the rainy seasons, and it might be off. Just like how everything south of the equator, they have different dates. Their seasons are reversed, but the calendar time frames, Abib will still be Abib, right? Doesn't matter where you are, the months will still be the same, and you still keep the festivals according to their true dates. Jah is a little sanctuary wherever we are in the world, so we don't have to worry about, that understanding of whether we're doing it during this time, rainy time or not. We know that February is, and believe it or not, where we are in Toronto, our rainy season, our snow season is linked up with Israel's rain season. So there might be a lot more closer things to, in Jamaica's climate than we think. And I want to do a little bit more research and understanding that way. But all of this information here that you're reading about is perfect. And you can do this. You can follow Jah's Almanac, calendar, and festivals anywhere you are in the world. Remember, they talked about those Irish seasons. Winter begins on the 1st of November. You can go to Wikipedia for this. Spring begins the 1st of February, summer the 1st of May, autumn the 1st of August. Halloween is the end of the autumn season. That's why they have all of these dead animals and dead Dracula and skeletons and everything, and the pumpkins coming late, because it's the end of the autumn season. Now, again, I want to make sure I'm emphasizing Jah's Almanac is not the Irish calendar, right? But what I'm saying is that these Irish and many other ancient nations, they knew the true seasons. Anciently, the equinoxes and solstices were always the beginning of the middle of the seasons. But again, It's just over time, it's been changed. You can read this from another website.
Despite what the rest of the Northern Hemisphere thinks, in Ireland, February 1st, not March 21st, is the official first day of spring. So today, while New Englanders continue to deal with winter, Dubliners are watching the daffodils popping up. Why February 1st? As February 1st graders taught in Ireland, spring officially starts on February 1st to honor Saint Brigid, who, according to pagan legend, was able to make even the rocky farms of Ireland productive. The pagans honored Brigid on February 1st because it was the first day of spring in the pagan calendar. Similarly, the pagan calendar had a feast on the first day of summer, May 1st, autumn, August 1st, and winter, November 1st, each tied to the growing of crops and wildlife. Mute, Sean.
Yes, I know when it stands out, it stands out, hey, the pagan calendar, right? And that's what those people who observe the astronomical Gregorian calendar, they would call these guys pagan. You understand? And that's how this works. And yeah, they were pagans, but the calendar and season that they followed is the true seasons. It's just that they put pagan festivals on those things, but they knew the true seasons. And this is what we're talking about in this understanding. So remember, people say, hey, that might say pagan calendar. This is just a reference, but we showed clearly from the scriptures when the 9th month, when the early the latter rains begin on the 1st month, and all of that information. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, this is going to say the same thing that we've been talking about that way. Let me see something here, brother. Hold on. Something I can jump to. Yeah, because we're almost finished. All right, from the Bible Compact Dictionary.
On page 488, under the heading of rain. In Palestine, the rainy season extends from October to April, the dry season from May to October. The early rain occurs in October and November. The latter rain in March and April. Crops are therefore planted so that they will grow during the rainy season.
That's right. So again, it lets us know the latter rain is in March and April. They didn't include February. It's almost like they don't want to say February, that way. But nonetheless, we have our verses. Everything is on top, in terms of the rainy seasons. Remember, it doesn't change in Israel. So if they're the same, all this time, and it's in Scripture, this is how we operate.
That's right.
Again, if you look at any climates or the rainfall that deals with anything. We have February, the beginning of the latter rains in the orange. March, April, we have 1, 2, 3 months. And then we have the summer, which is a dry season. And then we know that, in October is the slight, but November is the beginning. We have November, December, and January. So you can't start the latter rains from March being 1, 2, and then having maybe the third month latter rain. You definitely can't start the year in April, because if that's supposed to be the first month of the year, then the latter rains would have to last from April, May, and June, and that's impossible. You understand? Completely impossible. So when you start to work out these things, you can see clearly that the summer is a dry season. November is the early rains in the yellow, and then the latter rains are in the orange, February, March, and April. I got more charts, but this is another annual precipitation is concentrated in the winter months, while from May, look what it say, from May to mid-October, it almost never rains. Here's the average precipitation. So it says from May, which is right here, till October, it almost, mid-October, it never rains. And remember we said mid-October or the 20th or late October is when the rains just begin, just like how we read in the book of Ezra.
That's
and
right.
We can see that November, December, and January are the early rains, and February, March, and April are the latter rains. Again, from May, it never rains. So May would never be included as a part of the third month of the latter rain season, because it never rains that time. So on average, you can read these, brother, right here.
Sure. On average, January is the coldest month, and July and August are the hottest months on average across the country. Summers are hot and very humid along the Mediterranean coast, but dry in the central highlands, the Rift Valley, and the Negev Desert. Most of the average rainfall in Israel falls between November and April. May through September are usually rainless. During a heat wave in 2006, October and November were also dry, and November was almost rainless when it was supposed to be rainy.
So you can see the difference between, again, climate and weather, right? Some freak things can happen, but again, emphasizing when these summer and winter seasons are. We have our chart that emphasizes it again. February, March, and April. The mid-spring equinox is the middle of spring. Summer solstice, when they begin summer, is the middle, not the beginning. This deception and this trick is profound. It's profound. It's got the whole world. We speaking this, most people, this is like, get out of here with that stuff. But it can be verified because the world is deceived. And so when the truth comes, they wouldn't even understand if it was the truth, because it's like knee deep or even waist deep into, false doctrine. You've seen this chart many times, but again, the more you start to see it and understand it, the more, it'll become more apparent about the true scriptural seasons. Another way to look at it, the 12 months of Jah's common year, the Gregorian months equals 364 days. We have our latter rains, or the second rains. We have our summer, early summer, and also the 6-month summer, with the last 3 months being latter summer or August or autumn. And then we have the early rains beginning in November, which is also the beginning of winter. So these rains are all winter, and all these 6 months are summer, just like it says in the Holy Scripture. And there's our mid-spring, the middle of the seasons, the equinoxes and the solstices. So again, I've shown this chart before, but just trying to prove things, remember, everything we're reading about Israel matches up with the Bible.
That's right.
And many parts of the world too, but it matches up perfectly with Scripture. Whereas a lunar calendar cannot do that. Especially if you're dealing with equinoxes and solstices, can't work. They'd have to invent a chart, but this is accurate charts of the climate and how it is, right? I'm showing it in many different ways as we end off today's Sabbath session. Again, looking at you saw this chart. Another for Jerusalem, we have our rains. February, March, and April are our latter rains. The early rains are November, December, and January. Summer from May to October. Remember, it might rain for that last mid-October or last couple of days, 10 days, but we have our officials, temperatures and everything. When we're dealing with our agricultures, we got the latter grain harvests, the summer fruits, the autumn ingathering of all of these things, and the winter seed time, early rains, the planting time. Again, perfectly matched up in their order of their numericals, the order of the scriptural names, and of course the order using the Gregorian calendar equivalent. So again, we went through all these climates. Even I'll finish off with this here. I went to this website, Weather Atlas or whatever, the monthly weather forecast of climate of Israel for month by month. This is month by month in Israel, right? And I don't have to read everything. Just want to read a couple of things. You can just read the underline, Brother Javed.
February is a mild winter month in Israel, with average temperatures in the zone of 6.1 degrees Celsius to 22.8 degrees Celsius. Much of Israel, except for the southern parts of the Negev Desert, receives 101.6 millimeters to 127 millimeters of rain, with at least 10 wet days in the month. The daily sunshine improves to 7 hours and the daylight to 11.5 hours.
All right. Now, you don't have to read March. March is sunny in Israel, right? You got April, the precipitation registers below, right? Now we got in Judah, May. Read the May.
May is dry and sunny in Israel, with 11 hours of bright sunshine and 14 hours of daylight. The precipitation is generally absent in Israel by mid-May, and most regions are hot and dry. Expect the temperatures to rise significantly by the end of the spring season in May in Israel.
What? The end of the what season?
Spring season.
In what? May? It ends in May, right?
May. Because May is the beginning of summer.
I'm showing you just month by month, and I'm just focusing on the summer and winter months, seasons that way of Israel, right? Weather in June, it's hot. Summer. Weather in July, hot. 7th month in August, hot and dry. Weather in September, 8th month. Oh, now we get into the 9th. The 9th month, October is warm at the end. What does it say there, brother? The first sentence?
October is warm to hot at the end of the summer in Israel. End of the summer.
That's right. That's the 9th month. Then we get into weather November, right? Sorry. November is moderate conditions in Israel, warm days, cold nights. The sunshine drops to 8 hours in the month. The precipitation is to the tune. So it's starting to rain again. You understand?
That's right.
In the 10th month. And then, of course, December and Adar, finish out the year. January is the coldest month of the year in Israel. It's also what?
The wettest month.
Praise Jah.
Praise Jah.
Wow. We've gotten to where we have to go. We finished off today's basically introduction to the true scriptural seasons of the Most High, right? And next week or sometime soon, we're going to deal with, the Babylonian lunar solar months, the climate, the weather, the agricultural crops. All of this we have mapped out as well. What grows when it's supposed to be brought in and all of that. But these charts are for a future time. Again, I want to give all praise and glory to Jah, our Father, and the Son, Jahoshua the Messiah, who died for our sins, also known as Jesus, Yahusha, Yahshua, the Messiah, Yeshua, who died for our sins that we may have eternal life. Wow. Praise Jah. I want to thank everyone for listening in.